ultimately happens is you break down the cellular structure of whatever it is. The bacteria and yeast produce organic acids and compounds. The fruits and vegetables parlay some of those nutrients and minerals and flavor. Fermentation makes the nutrients and the minerals much more bioavailable for our body, meaning we can use it a lot easier.
There's softening components to it. There's the garlic and there's the chili pepper softens over time. The brininess starts to dissipate more, and then you get this more funky roundness. So like wine or like cheese, it tastes different at different stages in its evolution.
I'm Mary Mammoliti.
And I'm Jenny Arena.
And we're Bits and Bites.
Mary and I consider ourselves to be pretty cultured, except for when it comes to fermented foods. And there are two specifically that come to mind: kimchi and kombucha.
Oh, you got that right, Jenny. I know you aren't a huge fan of kimchi.
Nope, I am not.
Well, me, on the other hand, I'll take a pass on kombucha. So, although we have differing opinions on these foods, we can agree that we wanted to learn more about them. So, we've invited a few guest experts to tell us a little more.
Our guest today is someone whose cup of tea is kombucha, Ryan Chelak of Vibe Kombucha.
What is kombucha? And then walk us through the fermentation process.
Well, kombucha is fermented tea. That's the long and short of it. Like all things, it's arguable who invented it, whether it was Eastern Europe, China, Asia. Ultimately, it's a wild ferment of tea, whether it's black tea, green tea, yerba mate, any kind of tea that has the natural tannins that are in there and nutrients and things that the culture feeds off of. Then you add the kombucha culture and the SCOBY. The pellicle on top, the SCOBY, that disc that you see that people get grossed out by or fascinated by, it's cellulose fiber. It's a colony of naturally occurring bacteria and wild yeast. Once you've made this and added the kombucha culture, you leave it alone, really. You let it sit at room temperature. It's an aerobic fermentation, meaning it needs air to ferment. And what happens over time is the yeast and the bacteria, they feed off of the tea and the sugar, and they produce different things. So the yeast will produce alcohol, like all fermentation, whether it's beer or wine or kombucha, you do have trace alcohol. Now, there's a lot of things you can do to mitigate it so that we're not serving an alcoholic beverage. The bacteria and yeast produce organic acids, and the organic acids are really good for detoxifying your liver, you're flushing your kidneys. And fermentation, like any kind of fermentation, what ultimately happens is you break down the cellular structure of whatever it is. So it makes the nutrients and the minerals much more bioavailable for our body, meaning we can use it a lot easier. And then that's pretty much it.
So does it always have to start out with a tea base, Ryan, or can you use like fruits and vegetables to create a kombucha?
Yes, it does. It is a tea. After it ferments, people will add the fruits and vegetables, which would parlay some of those nutrients and minerals and flavor into it. And carbonation, people like bubbles. Some people don't like a lot of bubbles.
That's awesome. Why is it that kombucha is so great for gut health, and what are some of the other health benefits of consuming it?
Well, what you put into your body is going to affect your gut. The damage to your gut health happens over years. We're only really scratching the surface at gut health and the gut microbiome. There's more studies coming out now all the time, but kombucha helps your body come back into balance. Probiotics are only one part of it.
Right.
You need prebiotics and probiotics to maintain a healthy balance. And so kombucha just helps. It's one tool. It's not a magic cure. It's not an easy fix, especially now with commercialization. There's a lot of sugar in some of the bottled kombuchas that you can buy at the grocery store. And the processes that they go through are very different. I think a lot of it has come from people see kombucha as a soda alternative, right? And unfortunately, a lot of them now are just becoming like soda because of the sugar content, and some of them use artificial sweeteners, artificial flavors. Like it's just a result of monetizing or commercializing a product. When you have a kombucha that is more of a traditional product with more of the healthy acids and organic compounds, it does help detoxify your system. So some people have not an adverse reaction, but a reaction, and sometimes that pushes people away from it. They think, oh no, I can't have that. The reality is when the pendulum swings one way, it has to come back, and you have to give it time to find its equilibrium. And your body's the same way. So that's why I suggest to people, try half, see how you feel. If you want to have more, have more.
Our next guest is a familiar voice on the show. Chef and the Kris Kringle of Kimchi, Sang Kim. It's great to have you back on, Chef. We can't wait for you to share more about your Gifting Kimchi campaign. I think it was last winter, Gifting Kimchi.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? You would go around and you would just drop it off on someone's doorstep?
Yeah, with a little note that said, "Hey, listen, my name is so-and-so, and I heard that you're doing a lot of giving back to the community, and as a way of expressing my appreciation, here's a kimchi crock with my kimchi in there. Please enjoy." And the thing about kimchi is, you and I both come from a sharing culture, and so you cook food to share it. You don't cook food to necessarily just create your own individual three plates that you're eating. So it's meant to be shared, and nothing really embodies that more perfectly in Korean cuisine as kimchi, because kimchi is that ubiquitous series of little dishes in the middle of the table that's shared between people who might be eating different, main courses. But kimchi is always shared.
Do you have it as part of your meal, or do you have it as a side? And is really there any right or wrong way to eat kimchi?
So kimchi is something that you can eat as an accompaniment to a main dish, or you can incorporate it into the main dish. So in Korean, food culture, kimchi is sometimes very, very much incorporated into some of the most famous dishes, particularly like stew dishes, because Korea is famous for its stews. Whereas, for example, the other thing Korea is famous for, like barbecue, you would have it as a side. One of the things that I'm doing as well is I've teamed up with Indigo, the Thoughtful Merchant Program there, and I'm going to be teaching virtual kimchi classes. And there I'll be showing how to make kimchi in a way that allows that kimchi over time, because it is a fermented product. How do you use it in different applications depending on how much fermentation time has gone on? And I like to use very specific recipe that allow that kind of what I call kimchi longevity, because it allows you much more versatile applications for it.
It's one of those things where when you just start eating something new, you want to make sure that you're eating it the best way to get all the flavors, to really experience kimchi and what you can pair with it, what you can eat with it, especially if you've never had it before.
Yeah, one of the things that one of my restaurants, Yakitori Bar, I did something that was interesting to a lot of people, but for me it was just natural, and that is selling kimchi. Because when you go to a Korean restaurant, kimchi is just given to you for free, but it's very labor intensive, and if you're giving away so much of this for free, and everybody wants second, third servings, it's costly. So I would offer kimchi 3 ways. It was actually a plate with 3 different compartments with the same kimchi over time. So using the exact same recipe. So the first compartment had kimchi that was made in the last 3 days. And then the next compartment had kimchi, that same kimchi recipe, at 2 weeks. And then the one after that was the same kimchi over 3 months. So like wine, or like cheese, it tastes different at different stages in its evolution. And because it's fermented, the other thing that a lot of people don't know about kimchi is that, because they immediately think kimchi is just a spicy thing. And of course, it's not all kimchi is like that. But also the fermentation, like anything that's fermented, goes great paired with wines, right? Or great paired with anything that's fermented. So for example, cheese and kimchi go amazing together, as amazing as wine and cheese does. Kimchi and wine goes great together. One of my favorite things that when I make a kimchi stir fry, right, I put slivers of Romano in there, right, and just mix it all in together, and it's absolutely delicious. Because when I told you about kimchi poutine, you're like, oh, what is that?
No, I'm actually, see, that's the difference is I get curious and I want to try it
Right.
because it sounds different. And it's like, I never would have put those two together.
Yeah, but the reason why it makes it so delicious is the novelty, of course, is that it's Canadian in some ways, but kimchi poutine, the natural combination of cheese and kimchi, it's like there's nothing like it. Like it's
Like
so
to
good.
me, like kimchi has a little bit of, it's acidic to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when you pair that with the potato, it's like if you put vinegar on your fries.
Well, it would be similar if it was more sauerkraut and fries, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with kimchi, there are, if for lack of a better word, there are softening components to it. There's the
Right.
there's the garlic, and there's the chili pepper, for example, softens over time, and so the brininess starts to dissipate more, and then you get this more funky roundness to kimchi, right? It all depends also on the region, because kimchi comes, Korea, like Florida, is a peninsula. So when you're more center inland and when you're more north, there's a very different style of kimchi than when you're in the coastal areas. So it's like Italy.
And I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly like Italy. It's regional.
That's right.
Thank you, Chef Sang. You've actually made me rethink my feelings on kimchi, and I've been inspired to give it another try.
Well, there you have it. Both Jenny and I have decided to get cultured and give kimchi and kombucha another try, and we'll be sure to keep you posted on our findings. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to Bits and Bites on your favorite podcast player. And if you like what you hear, feel free to leave a review and a star rating.
Thank you to our editor, Matt Agnew, and our music for today's episode came from taketones.com. Tune in next time for more chews, chats, and chuckles.
And if you like what you hear, feel free to leave a... What?